Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Awards Watch podcast. I'm your host today, Eric Anderson, editor in chief of Awards Watch. And it is Friday morning, first week of December. Nothing's really happened. Been a really quiet week. Don't know what we're really going to talk about today. Oh, except for the fact that it's an absolute onslaught of award season, and we are so deep into it, just 5 days into the month. We just had Critics' Choice announce their nominations. We have winners from National Board Review and the New York Film Critics Circle and Gotham. But we are going to start off the top really quickly with the breaking news yesterday of Netflix buying Warner Brothers and what that means. And joining me today on this Editors Only podcast is executive editor Ryan McQuade.
Rise and shine, everybody.
And associate editor Sophia Ciminello.
From here on in, it's one battle after another.
I'm not seeing a lot of ocean waves in this news, and I think it's going to take more than a few small beers to overcome what is potentially happening with this news. Honestly, from my perspective, there is no good version or outcome of anyone buying Warner Brothers or any major studio. And what we're looking at is kind of exactly what we would expect from Netflix, and that is very shortened theatrical windows, despite the fact that Warner Brothers had a record-setting box office year this year, unlike any other studio in history. And I mean, this news covers an enormous amount of territory and ground, and we're not going to get through all of it today, but it includes the Warner Archive, it includes TCM, HBO. It's so all-encompassing, it's almost too difficult to really grasp onto of what it's going to mean. Ultimately, it's going to take years really for everything to happen, the same way that the Disney buyout of Fox did. And I don't know how people feel about how that looks like now. I think there's good and bad from it. I'll throw it to you guys now. And Ryan, what do you think about this?
I think this is an absolute shit show. And I think, to Eric's point, there was not going to be a winner. Far be it for me to ever take James Cameron's words as like set in stone, but he commented on this with Matt Billany a couple weeks ago on The Town, and he said that Netflix getting this would be the worst mistake Warner Brothers could make. That regardless of what we think of David Ellison's politics, David Ellison is a known entity and a friend and champion of the theatrical experience. He's worked a lot with Tom Cruise. He's worked a lot at Skydance Pictures with various franchises, and so that would not be the problem if Ellison actually got it. It would be more on the television side of things would be the problem, because of him owning CBS News and having CNN and basically making television a police state. So the theatrical problem is not the issue there. And the television side really isn't the issue here, because Netflix is in their television model. They've always tried to chase after HBO. They finally got them. So, and there could be the potential of them wanting to sell out certain things. Their platform and interface with HBO's, that's not a problem at all. The theatrical model in physical media and just movies in general are the problem here. Ted Sarandos is absolutely one of the worst people in the planet when it comes to the theatrical model. There's a reason why Cannes doesn't want them at their film festival. There's a reason why they are not ever winning Best Pictures, I think, and there is a contingent within Hollywood that does not want them to have something like this. I think, Eric, last night we were kind of joking, but it was bleak. It was bleak jokes about the fact that this is not a good deal at all. This is not good because it kills the theatrical model. It is part of his master plan to eradicate theaters in general, because he thinks that movies in theaters is an obsolete model. And actually, ever since he's been saying these comments, he's been proven wrong. This is a guy that and had his corporate stooges going out there saying that Oppenheimer would have done well on a model like Netflix. Bullshit. Because the fact that the Oppenheimer was in theaters for months is the reason why it made $1 billion. Avatar is another example. Avatar didn't make $500 million like Zootopia 2. It took a long time, and it takes a long time for those movies to make money both domestically and internationally. Same thing for Sinners, same thing for One Battle, same thing for Barbie, same thing for Dune. All these movies that have been under Warner Brothers template and over the course of this year, they took time, and Warner Brothers did a fantastic job with that. I pray to God if maybe this deal can be thrown out or changed or whatever because of Congress and antitrust laws, but also there is the Donald Trump of it all. He's friends with David Ellison. I do not think that this is over for Paramount yet. I think that they could still potentially get this, and there would be massive collusion by our government in order to do it. This is going
What
to be
massive collusion by our government? What are you talking about?
I think
I have
that
not heard of this.
Oh, you've never heard of something like that happening within our government?
With this administration? That's
no,
absurd.
never. It would never happen. No, 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 no. I don't think that this is far from over. I think this is going to be a messy, messy, messy thing that could take years, even beyond Trump's administration, for us to actually get resolution. So, in terms of how it affects this year, I don't actually think it will affect anything in this race, the rest of this year, or next year's slate. But going forward, yeah, if this deal goes through, it will be very, very bleak. So if you have the opportunity, Sophia, I know you posted this morning on Twitter a link to the Warner Archive. I would not be surprised here in the next couple of days if titles start going sold out and start missing. People start adding their collections and sort of pressure buying, because this is a big deal. It's a huge deal. And
okay. So I was just gonna mention that as I throw it to Sophia, because one of the things we did talk about last night was physical media and what the future of that is. And Ryan, you mentioned
I write a piece about it every week.
You mentioned Paramount and Tom Cruise as a new deal with Warner Brothers. So what is that going to look like? And Christopher Nolan is the president of the DGA.
I'm sure that conversation is going to be wonderful.
Take the stage on that.
Yeah, that's exactly actually where I was going to begin. Lock in Christopher Nolan, president of the DGA. Like, I trust him fully to lead that group really around this as a champion of theatrical release of physical media. I think that, his leadership, we're going to see something come from the DGA here that is meaningful. And, I think that we're going to see that really across guilds, hopefully, the PGA as well. I've seen, notes about that around, I think this morning online, just that members of the PGA are also really disturbed by this news. I think overall it is pretty devastating as someone who loves film and television. I am, despite living in a very tiny New York City apartment, a collector of physical media, and I will continue to be. Like Ryan mentioned, I highly recommend going on the Warner Archive and collecting any of those Blu-rays or 4Ks that you can, even if they are blind buys for you, if you've always wanted to see them and they are within your price range. Some of them are $10 or less right now. Buy them, because they might be the only way you can see them unless you go to your local library, which of course I'm also a champion of. And then I think this is pretty heartbreaking for a theatrical release, because what we're going to see is we're going to hear Ted Sarandos say that he will protect the theatrical experience. That's not true. Do not believe him. That is not true. When he says that he's going to protect the consumer and really value the consumer relationship, to him, that is the current Netflix model. So that's what we're going to start seeing from him. And it's going to, I agree, take a really long time before I think this comes to fruition. But we're about to get to, I think, a pretty dark place where we have to hear from the person we never want to hear from in office right now about how he wants to get involved in all of this, and his friend Ellison over at Paramount and Saudi Arabia and everything else. And I think this is also really heartbreaking for TV, because when I think of some of the best TV shows I've ever seen, a lot of those come from HBO. When you think about the quality of show that we've gotten over the years, how they look, how they feel, how those characters are created, how they're rolled out week to week. that could also disappear. And so I think overall this is just it's a really tough piece of news, but I think we're going to see the ripple effects for a long time, but I also agree that it's far from over.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't. I think Ted Sarandos is basically Lucy with the football, but he's not actually even trying to disguise. He's being very
No,
clear in all of his comments yesterday and this morning that theatrical release is an outdated model, and nobody wants a movie in theaters for 2 months,
no, that's
and everybody
bullshit.
wants to watch things at home. So he has, you know, the veil is off, and there is no pretending that is going to be kept. It will be sacrificed.
Can I just say one thing real quick about even the fact that that statement's bullshit, because his own movies prove his point is incorrect, because he's had two Knives Out movies and people have clamored to go see that in the theaters and they've made good money. Del Toro's Frankenstein did so well in its limited run, and people were like, why can't I see that in theaters? Evident by the fact that the only way they could see it was on Netflix.
K-pop
And
Demon Hunters was the number one movie
of the
5 months
year.
after it was
Yeah.
released
Yeah,
in theaters at the box office. So
exactly.
yes, it is clear and obvious that is not a true statement.
Well, he's
Um,
killed the
but
mid-budget movie by making these passion projects, and now he is determined to do that even at their own level. But he also is a massive. Their company is terrible at making blockbusters, because like Electric State was made for $320 million and looks like absolute dog shit.
yes,
So and so are the Extraction movies, and so are all the romantic comedies that they make that look like crap. And their television shows like Stranger Things. These are shows that they look nowhere near the quality of like a show that's like on a minor budget, but like watch Task, watch what's Welcome to Deary, watch some of these shows that that HBO has. They could only wish to have the visual quality of some of those shows. So
mhm.
to your point, Sophia, you're absolutely right. It's also from a quality standpoint on that side, it could be very bleak. And then we're going to hear a lot from creatives over the next couple of days. We hear about the threat of AI. I think that just as big of a threat of AI is the mind of Ted Sarandos. He is as bad of a villain in this industry as AI generated slop, because he thinks in a way that isn't human and isn't artistic forward. He thinks of it in terms of dollars and cents. And yeah, that's what this business is, but it's also built on a business of creativity and innovation. And he's not an innovator, he's a destroyer of worlds.
Yes, and with that, let's get to the unbelievable amount of awards announcements that we have had this week. We are going to begin with Critics' Choice, which just happened less than an hour ago, where Sinners got 17 nominations, one off the Barbie record. One Battle After Another had 14, and then Frankenstein and Hamnet came in with 11. I think what we can really just do is here in this section is highlight the things that got in, the things that missed, and maybe a little bit of why. I think what's one thing that was very interesting was, after it was just an accident, did so well early in the week with Gotham's and New York. All it managed to get here was the foreign language film nomination, nothing in director or picture. And what happened instead was sort of the reverse. Sentimental Value, which has been a little quiet in these first few days, absolutely roared back with Best Picture, Best Director, 4 acting nominations, yet it missed foreign language film. Very, very strange things happening here. And then the other I want to mention, obviously, the surprise win last year for John M. Chu in Best Director for Wicked. And he is nowhere to be found in the field of 6 this year for Wicked for Good. And even Cynthia Erivo missed here. So, Sophia, let me ask you just what you think about those specifically, and then just the the other highlights that you want to mention?
Yeah, I think the first thing I noticed really right away was the omission of it was just an accident. I think the first movie category in the announcements today that we saw where it could have come through was in the directing category. And sometimes CCA will go with the more populist options, or it will, steer away maybe from surprising international picks. But we saw Joachim Trier here, and I was really surprised that Panahi missed, especially because when you think of Critics' Choice, just the name, Panahi will theoretically do pretty well, I think, with critics groups this year and nominations, and that film will too. Like you said, he just did with the New York Film Critics Circle. So it was surprising, I think, to see that miss really in the top categories, including screenplay. I think this film is also really strong in original screenplay this season. So seeing that miss there was strange. And with Sentimental Value, it's funny because this week after New York Film Critics Circle and Gotham's, I saw some people online declaring it dead, and I just thought, guys, come on, you're smarter than that. It's early.
Are
Why
they
are you
though?
declaring a maybe they're not, but it's one of those things where I said in a tweet, do the European Film Awards, it led nominations. It was just an accident at the BIFAs. These are industry voted awards. And we have to be thinking about that as we get into what is a very long season. So it is far from over, really, in most races. And then I think with Wicked for Good is an interesting one because to me, two movies pop into my head when I think of what to compare this to from past seasons. I think the first is Black Panther Wakanda Forever, just with nomination potential, possibly getting supporting actress and then some technical nominations. But I was also thinking of Mary Poppins Returns and
Mm.
how that performed where we could I see Ryan's face just with mouthing a wow. How that performed. We saw Emily Blunt pick up some precursor support. We saw music nominations, a couple of crafts, and then at the end of the day, that didn't really translate when it came to the Oscars. So that's one that's in my mind. But I think I expected Wicked for Good to do well here because of that surprise Chew nomination or win last year, rather. But if Cynthia Erivo can't get in here, I know these are not industry awards, but if she can't get in here, I don't think that bodes well for her for the rest of the season with the makeup of this group and the fact that there's 6 slots in a highly competitive and unpredictable Best Actress race. If you have Amanda Seyfried getting in for The Testament of Anne Lee, a veteran like Emma Stone for Begonia, a newcomer like Chase Infinity cracking the Best Actress category here, I think signals definite support for One Battle After Another, but also strength for her. So that I think maybe, I don't want to call anything closed right now, but that does not bode well for Erivo. Overall, though, I think there are some creative nominations, and I wanted to also ask you guys about some of the really creative below the line picks. I'm wondering if that is actually a symptom of the shortlist this year, because I think in the past we saw a lot of chalk picks coming through. This group I think has been critiqued in the past for just going with Gold Derby. And, seeing something like The Perfect Neighbor in editing, that feels really inspired to me. And I'm wondering if that is maybe, a result of going to shortlist this year.
Ryan, why don't you take that?
Yeah. So, well, one, I'll go a little bit behind the curtain. So there is Sophia's referring to that there is a committee this year for below the line categories, and they essentially get together within the Critics Choice organization, and these are members, voting members of the group, and they get together and they create the short lists of films that we can choose from. Now, there are also write-in options for each category. You could do up to 2 write-in options, and you rank them. You can rank some of these on a scale of, well, I think it's 1 to 3, because you get 3 picks in these categories.
Yes.
Much like you do in the above the line categories outside of picture. Picture, you can write 5 films down in from 1 to 5, and then in every other category, it is 3 nominated spots. So it gets really, really tight as to what you can nominate. And then it also can mean downvoting, a lot of downvoting. And this is also what can happen in the Academy. So this is why, when you see groups, large groups like this and large, ceremonies like this, vote in such a heavy dose for one or two or three or four films, that is a huge indicator early on in the season, because I do think a lot of people then, like BAFTA, Globes, the guilds, and then the Academy, see a group early on like this and how they're going to do, because it is a televised show, and then maybe they copy some, maybe they don't. So I do think that it is influential there. But yes, there were a great, I think, no movie outside of really Sinners in One Battle really dominated most of those categories, I thought of, in terms of being on the short list. Everybody had a good, there was a good representation, and there was about 15 options to choose from, and then 2 write-ins. So I thought that was actually really great. And those committees did a good job at trying to highlight some of the best ones. And if they didn't get to them, I did. It was funny, Eric. I don't know if you did this for you in Below the Line, but I was quickly scanning a category and I was like, I didn't see that person. And I wrote it down, and then I went back. I was like, oh shit, actually they're already there. So like, that was really good. And I must say that I agree with Sophia. This is actually a very inspired, individualized, almost feels like group of nominees. One, because they didn't have to cheat off the Globes, and they didn't have to cheat off a lot of critics groups already. They're going to be the first out the gate this year. The first televised event this year is Critics' Choice. And I think that this is a good start in trying to turn a narrative on a group that, yes, Sophia, like we are, Eric and myself are voting members, but no group is as susceptible to criticism as some of our critics groups. New York has their biases, and so does Critics' Choice, and the Gothams, they have their crazy, voting system. So everybody has their own, right? And I will say that I was inspired by that. I thought the Wicked stuff, good on them, not just going chalk and allowing, that to just go on through. But I believe that director field last year was 10. This year it was 6. So that should show you all that if in a round of 10, sure, John M. Chu gets in there. But as we start limiting these categories, because the strength of the films this year are greater than last year, and the acclaim for part 1 is better than part 2, it really did show that, no, these are the films that the critics are really championing. I also thought it was a bad day for Avatar. I know that movie is screened
very bad
late.
day.
I know that movie is screened very late, and we don't have a review embargo. A review embargo is still out for that thing, and we don't have reviews up yet. But that should tell you the tale of the tape of what is going to come potentially from critics when it comes to that movie specifically, because we've seen this group late break for Avatar before with The Way of Water. We saw them do a special goddamn vote for a Star Wars movie. So we've seen things like that happen, and they didn't go for that bait. This was actually a really good day for Sentimental Value. This was a really good day for Begonia. And how that movie,
I mean, only 3 nominations, but they're all majors.
But they're all majors in the
and
screenplay
actress.
And Emma Stone, an actress.
Mm-hmm.
So like, she's part of this mix. I agree with Sophia. Sophia's doing earmuffs. It's like she's going to a Focus Feature party. Earmuffs. But anyway, I think that Chase Infinity is definitely in the high order now. Like, she's going to potentially get in because this movie is the front runner, and it's had a marvelous week. It's shown that strength from the Gothams to the NBRs to the National Board, to AFI to New York Film Critics. It's done fantastic. Sinners having a fantastic day as well. It's not surprising. Like, that movie has more chances to get in craft categories here than One Battle did, but it did extraordinary above the line. 5 acting nominations, PTA with 3 nominations, and it showed up exactly where we thought it would. Frankenstein did extremely well. That movie just continues to be the movie for Netflix this year.
Yeah,
and after a really shitty week, Hamnet had a wonderful nomination day. I mean, Eric, it almost
Hamnet
was like
died and then he lived.
And then he lived back on the stage. I I don't know if that necessarily, again, it doesn't necessarily mean that that movie is DOA for the whole season, but it was a nice way to kind of, revive itself after a very rough week for that movie. So, um, but sentimental value honestly is the real conversation here, because, and it's so weird, its nominations, all those above the line nominations, and then it misses out on foreign language international feature, however you want to call it. And that's where it was just an accident shows up. I don't believe that that will happen again. That feels like a very much an anomaly for that movie, but it was very surprising that it was just an accident, did not do as well. I mean, even as Secret Agent did better because Wagner Moura got in.
Mhm.
But
yeah,
yeah,
it missing to the Argentinian film Bellin is quite a surprise. But I
it's
say
quite a
that
surprise.
literally as I look at the Bellin ads on AwardsWatch right now, because
Amazon has
Ads for
pivoted.
that are
Amazon
everywhere.
Amazon
Yeah.
is going crazy on this movie.
They
So
are
it's been seen. And I
they
think
have yeah.
there's something that happens, and certainly seems like it happened with Sentimental Value, where there might have just been an expectation of course it's getting in. So let's throw
Yeah.
some of our 3 votes to something else. But that's what happens when your strategy sort of backfires here. But
Yes, it
I
does,
want to
Eric. Yeah.
highlight a few other things before we move on to the other awards that happened earlier this week, and that's just a few highlights here. Specifically looking at the best casting and ensemble category, which is new for here. I think the combination of the name is really sketchy at best
It's a very sketchy
because
thing, and I don't like it at all. They
it's
should be
trying to
two
be
different categories.
trying to be too many things at once. But it did show us something that I think is going to happen at the Oscars too, and that is Nina Gold earning 2 nominations, one for Jay Kelly, one for Hamnet. Maybe not specifically that lineup at the Oscars, but we're looking at potential for lots of double up nominations in that category, because a single person may cast 3, 4, 5 movies in a year that are all top tier contenders. Um, what do you guys think of that category specifically? It looks exactly like what I would expect it to look like.
Yeah, I think this is the name of it really eliminates a lot of opportunity for creativity in recognizing casting, because if you're calling it casting and ensemble, I think people naturally are going to default to what they've known before, which is SAG ensemble or the
Yeah.
best ensemble, which we see across critics groups, not so much in terms of casting. So I think it could look actually pretty different when we get to the Oscars, because the category at the BAFTAs looks very different than what SAG Ensemble can look like. And it's more typically tied to an acting win and not an ensemble. But I think we will get a lot of confusing chatter around this category this year, especially when casting directors, like you said, have worked on many films really in the race. And we also have a number of large scale, really, I think, sweeping ensemble pictures. I mean, if you just look at this list, like Marty Supreme, I mean, that has such a. I talked to Jennifer Venditti yesterday, and we were talking all about like the combination of veterans and non-actors and just everything that goes into something like that. And that movie here, at the CCA's nominations wise, isn't even as strong as something like One Battle or Sinners. So, yeah, not a lot of surprises here, but I do think the titling is misleading and could lead to different results than what we see at the Oscars, maybe.
It's
I don't
misleading
know.
because the nominees are the casting directors. It's not an
Right.
ensemble nomination for the cast. So even having ensemble in there is does feel very misleading. Ryan, what do you think about that category specifically before we jump away?
Man, I think it's stupid. Like I listen, you guys, it's been a rough week. You're gonna get the blunt honesty from me today.
I'm like, it's
Uh,
misleading. You're like, ah, it's stupid.
no, it's stupid. It's just calling out what it is. Like it's dumb. Like it is. To your point. It's completely misleading. It undermines the ensemble award that they previously had. which, you know, honestly was a great representation for some films to get up on that stage that would not be able to otherwise, because of sweeps or just other preferences in other acting categories. I fully support casting directors and that new category at the Oscars. I understand it completely. They should be two categories. Being on the ensemble and acting is completely different than the casting directors, in my opinion, and they are not. We need to separate these categories so then the Academy doesn't, because I love people, but people can be dumb sometimes, okay, folks, and they can be lazy, and they can just assume that this is the same thing, and that when we get to the Academy, it's not like the BAFTAs. Like the BAFTAs take that category very seriously, and SAG does their version. That's their best picture. That they're trying to take that seriously. And I do not want both of them to be thought of as the same thing. They are completely different operations. And so one is pre-production, the other is during the making of the film. Like it's completely different processes of the creative machine. And because like I would say that somebody like the casting director for Weapons should be nominated. I don't necessarily, even though I love the film Weapons, I don't know if I would say that that's an ensemble of the year. It might be for some, but not for me. But I wouldn't consider them both in those categories. Now, some of those could, because like I think what Killer Kundis does for One Battle then leads to the ensemble of the year. So like it's not always has to work out that way. But I think that conflating it and changing the rule and changing what this category already was, just add another one. They're not going to even give this award during the telecast because the majority of the below the line in the telecast get to the commercial break as a slideshow. I mean, for God's sakes, I remember being there 2 years ago, and when they did production design and they gave it to Jennifer Lamb or whatever her name is, and I was sitting right next to Jack Fisk, who's like, "Was that my category?" So like, what are we even doing? It doesn't matter. So have an extra category. It's an extra award you get to give out.
I
It's
know.
not hard.
I was at the challengers table last year, and they won both of the awards that they were up
And they're
for.
all celebrating. They're like, when do I
But
get my award?
it wasn't
I
on
In the
TV.
always
mail?
I always think of the cut to PTA when he won Best Comedy for Licorice Pizza and he's just like gives a peace sign to the camera.
Like, sure,
Like, okay.
it's like the Fiona Apple meme, very much so. All right, we are going to move because we had the AFI Top 10, we had the National Board of Review, New York, Gotham's Spirit Awards nominations. There isn't really enough time for us to really kind of go through everything, but I'm going to run through really quickly some of these. AFI's top 10 was Avatar, Fire and Ash, Begonia, Frankenstein, Hamnet, Jay Kelly, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sinners, Train Dreams, and Wicked for Good, almost identical to Critics' Choice top 10. And you know, it's Jay Kelly also made Critics' Choice, so I think some people are wondering if it is being revived or if it was really never dead to begin with. National Board of Review's top 10, very, very similar. Also having Avatar, Frankenstein, Jay Kelly, Marty Supreme, One Battle, Sinners, Train Dreams, and Wicked, but including F1 Rental Family and Wake Up Dead Man. We're in a place in this week where this number of repeated names just starts to become that is the norm.
Word salad.
And I don't know about that so much,
It feels
but
a little bit like, oh, it's the same. It becomes boring, I think, a little bit, to be
but
fair.
I mean, NBR having 4 Netflix titles, pretty wild. Really wild, actually. I don't know. When you look at both of those together, you're definitely looking at 7 or 8 of the Best Picture nominees for the Oscars. And I want to just ask you guys really quickly what you think is not going to make the final lineup from that pair.
Sophia, you want to go first? This is
Sure.
tough. This is kind of
This is
tough.
tough. Yeah. Well, Eric, I was going to tell you, I love the little grid you always make with them side by side to
I'm
show.
looking at it right now, so
That's
I'm
exactly
gonna,
what I have pulled
I was
up.
going to
I'm
say,
looking at
there's
it.
no
yeah,
way Eric can
I'll
do
be
this
public.
without looking at that.
I'll be
No, I'm not way
publishing
too.
that
It's
soon,
fine.
but because something jumps out, and we'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the of the combined titles, so of the ones that have gotten in both places, I would say Avatar Fire and Ash is the one right now where that's the first on the chopping block for me, despite having four Netflix title, well, three on the crossover list with
Mm-hmm.
Train
Okay.
Dreams, Jay Kelly, and Frankenstein. But Avatar Fire and Ash, I just don't know if that will have enough passion to get the number one votes that we're seeing for to get into the Best Picture lineup. Wicked for Good also raises alarms still for me. I just don't really totally sense the passion there. But I think what's complicated is that we could see them at PGA, which could be a little bit of a red herring. But what I'll say is that, last year, and we've seen this over the past few years, is just how international the Academy is becoming. And that has started to really show up in picture. You look at the strength of Anatomy of a Fall and the Zone of Interest. Last year, we think of that surprise, I'm Still Here, Best Picture nomination. So when you have films like It Was Just an Accident, which received that special mention from AFI, you have The Secret Agent, which I think is actually getting stronger really each week, especially with the Mora campaign. And then you have something like Sentimental Value, which isn't mentioned in either of those places. So suddenly you have three films, and then you think, okay, what do we have to switch out if all three of those are going to get in? If you're being maybe a little bit wiser, you might say just two of them. But then this crossover doesn't include Hamnet, which is definitely getting a Best Picture nomination. So what do we do there? It's very, very tricky. So aside from those blockbusters, then smart money tells me to kick out one of the Netflix titles.
And it needs to be said too that both NBR and AFI rarely, if ever, include a foreign language or international film on their
Hmm.
list. NBR has separate categories for it, so they almost never have it in there.
Right.
AFI, it is extremely rare for a really
But what
non-English
did they
language
give their
film to
special
get in.
award to this year?
And that's where they go. They go with the special mention. And this year it
It
was
was
just an
just an
accident.
accident.
But I
But
mean,
didn't
they've
Amelia
had
Perez get in?
Amelia Perez got in last year. Roma's gotten in before. I don't know if there's a connection to that maybe people
Hmm.
want to make,
Is
but
Parasite in there? Did Parasite
mm,
make it in, or was it a
I'll,
special
I don't
mention?
I don't
Would you
remember.
Let me
look that
check.
I'd
one
have to
up?
Let's
look
check.
Look
back.
that up.
But yeah, but that is something to think about because when you do look at these lists side by side and you see 7, 8 match up, you do really have to wonder then because of where the Oscars are in the world of international films, 2, 3, maybe more are going to be missing from that final Oscar list.
So
Parasite
to
got the special award
did get the
quickly.
Yeah,
special. Thank
Yeah.
you,
yeah.
Sophia. Okay. So I see this as Eric's gonna roll his eyes, but Sophia knows exactly what time of year it is. It's time for the college football committee to go and make all of their selections of the 12 best teams in the country. So they put the resumes up against one another every single year. And it doesn't necessarily mean that the 12 best teams get in. It just means that what the committee and the preferences are and what's got the passion behind it in the room, right? And so I always equate sports with what's going on in the Oscar race because it's about human flaws and errors and passion. It really is
And
not about the qual
momentum.
and momentum. It's not about the quality of the film, and it really isn't about the quality of the teams. Really, at the end of the day, it's just about what has momentum. And so I see a world where Avatar and Wicked are fighting for a spot. Neither one of those are going to get in together. I don't think it's a package group. This isn't like that year, in years past where like Top Gun and Avatar get in, right? So, but they're both struggling critically wise. We'll see what Avatar's grades are when it comes out, right before the holiday break, right? We know what Marty Supremes are. They're strong. So, and I think what you can make from this is what are the locks? What are starting to become the films that you can bank on? That's One Battle After Another, which is going to be our winner. You have Marty Supreme, Frankenstein, Sinners, and those are the four. And then you would assume Hamnet is the five. I know that the Hamnet did not
You're
make
putting Hamnet at 5.
No, I'm just saying it's one of the five that I think
He's
are
doing
the
the crossover first.
I'm doing the crossover first.
Yeah.
And then Hamnet is then 5 in there because I know it missed NBR, but that movie's in. Like come on. Like there's no way that I think NBR was a little bit of a fluke. Then it goes, okay, what are the next spots? So Avatar and Wicked fights for a spot. So that's 1. Jay Kelly and Trade Dreams fight for the second one. That's 7. Then there's the international picks. That leaves then Sentimental Value. It was just an accident. And and for this last spot, it's The Secret Agent or Begonia. That's what the last spot will be. And I really think that that's like F1, Riddle Family, Wake Up Dead Man. That ain't gonna though. Congratulations, you got those noms. Put that on your resume, put it on the box cover art for your Blu-ray, and then move on with your day. Like those aren't really gonna happen. And they did not happen. Those 3 titles did not happen with Critics' Choice. And Begonia did. And Secret Agent didn't. So like you kind of like, and based off of how Sentimental Value did with CCA and how we know that people love Joachim Trier and that the love from Worst Person in the World, I think that's what honestly propelled it so much at CCA is that he's a known entity to so many people because Worst Person in the World and people love his films. That I think that puts him a little bit more of an advantage than Panahi or Kleber for Secret Agent. So that's how I see it. I think that those from these crossover lists, there's only 4 that really are solidified. Hamnet's, I think, solidified, even though it only made 1. And then there are going to be little battles with these 2 spots for within the studios. I don't think that we're going to get 3 Netflix films. I don't think we're going to get both Avatar and Wicked because Frankenstein, Sinners, and One Battle Another, they represent the epic big budget filmmaking spots that we normally see. So half of the lineup being like essentially blockbusters, not going to fucking happen. Not going to happen.
Avatar not making the cut anywhere other than visual effects,
Visual
sound, nothing like that. That's a
Miley Cyrus.
Sure.
I'm just saying she did a press conference with CCA before the vote.
I mean, look at the first Avatar and its nominations. Look at Way of Water, cut in half, and here we are again. And that's actually what we're going to likely see for Wicked as well.
Yeah.
I want to move on from NBR and AFI because we do have New York and Gotham's and Spirit Awards. And I think we can spend just a briefer time on the Spirit Awards because the thing that I really wanted to highlight more than anything else, because I do love my grids, guess which movie has the most?
The most there?
The most showings of all the things that we've mentioned so far.
Train Dreams?
It's Train Dreams.
Train Dreams.
Gotham, NBR, AFI, Critics' Choice, Spirit Awards.
Which bodes well for it taking the spot over Jay Kelly for Netflix.
Exactly.
In my opinion.
And Joel Edgerton getting in over Clooney.
Exactly.
That was big.
And right
I think Sandler is number 6 in that lineup of supporting actors. That includes Jacob Elordi, who I think is stronger every goddamn day to get in because of that makeup win. So I think that
it's fascinating. I that's why I love seeing these side by side and just going, okay, here's Jay the story. Here is the narrative. You're looking at the outline and the blueprint of what is possible and likely.
Jay Kelly just feels like screenplay and bust right now. That really is what it feels like. Original screenplay nomination.
It couldn't even get in score, which is actually too bad because it's probably the best element of the film. All right, let's jump to New York Film Critics, and that was a pretty
that's great.
A pretty big win for One Battle After Another, which also got Benicio del Toro in. And that kind of became one of the narratives that was happening this week is One Battle winning everything so far. Every group that has announced something so far this week gave One Battle Best Picture. Del Toro absolutely dominating the supporting actor wins. Amy Madigan, Rose Byrne. That
Wagner
has
Moura.
been that has been the story this week. Those four really just on repeat, like it's a Spotify Wrapped for the first week of award season.
It's good songs.
Really, really impressive. Um, Even K-pop Demon Hunters New York win, kind of crazy and
Well,
wild.
there's only one animated movie that actually is
Well,
like
I mean, that's kind of the thing, and I think people are like, what about Arco or Little Amelie? Mike, there isn't
Tutopia. Yeah.
a
No.
flow or a Miyazaki to really stand up against a film like that.
Well, and Pixar
And
movie
yes,
stinks,
yeah, Pixar movie's not going
and
anywhere.
Zootopia 2's doing really, really well at the box office, like 650 million, but it's like
Sure,
it's not as critically acclaimed as the first one was.
It
And they
won't
don't
have a
do
song winner either.
and yeah,
yeah,
and it doesn't have it's not a sequel. So if it's a sequel, it has to be a Toy Story movie to do well
it's
because
the
like
only sequels that really can do well.
bingo.
So
So
yeah, and that was only as a result of the category not being in existence at the time of the. It's sometimes it's just really not that hard. It's right
no, it's
there in
not.
front of you. You mentioned Wagner Moura, absolute history making with that New York win.
Yep.
No actor from a Central or South American country has ever won
That's
that award
crazy.
in
That's
90
crazy.
years.
Yeah.
So
Says something.
congrats. Exactly. Um, yeah, so I don't think there's in New York's lineup a whole lot of big surprises. If there's anything you guys want to highlight, maybe Jafar Panahi's win in director there. But what do you think, Sophia, of New York's winners?
I'm not going to go to Panahi. I'm going to go to Benicio del Toro because I think that one of the funny things that is happening with this performance, and I started really thinking about it, is that, I think sometimes like we're so close to the season and to talking about it and to our own predictions that we can have tunnel vision to what we think is going to happen, and then what's actually happening is something else. And in every conversation that I had with I will call them regular people, with a regular person who is not a film critic or a pundit covering this, they all told me after seeing one battle after another, I love Benicio del Toro.
Mhm.
That was the consensus, like favorite performance, favorite character. And sometimes I think we tend to see that more actually, I think in the actress categories where the more likable character will take home the prizes. But I don't know, I think Benicio has a real shot. It'll be interesting to see what happens once we get to the industry prizes. But I also think that if Stellan Skarsgård is going to be competitive here, he has to win critics' prizes. And I think I expected maybe that if someone that weren't in one battle after another were to win here, it would be him and he would have to start picking up these things. He still can, but I think that the overwhelming critical consensus around one battle is also going to extend to Benicio del Toro, and we're going to start really seeing that, I think, maybe come to fruition in critics groups.
Which is
So I don't know.
fascinating
It's just a
because
trend.
it's the opposite of what we see when there are two supporting performances, and one of them is huge and one of them is small, and the small one kind of just gets carried along, but it's the other one that actually kind of wins things, and that is not what's happening so far.
Right. And I want to say too that I think it's always funny because people try to argue about vote splitting. And when they argue about vote splitting, they're arguing when one of the people who could have, been, I don't know, affected by vote splitting won. So that's been, I think, funny to observe this week in is that, oh, if Benicio is winning instead of Sean, that means that Paul Mescal's going to win or Stellan Skarsgård's going to win. It's like, No, I don't think so. I don't really think that's how that works.
The math
But
is not mathing.
just something I've started to notice, I think, too, in the supporting categories.
Yes. Ryan, what do you think of New York winners here?
Well, Benicio's got the clip. He's got the clip, which is I've had a few small beers. That's the clip. That's the scene that everybody quotes. It's the scene everybody talks about. Of
And he's in
all
all
these
of Leo's
nominees,
best scenes
he's in
too.
all of Leo's best scenes. And the other thing about Benicio is he's had every Q&A. He's talking. He's doing every interview. He's doing what Sean Penn technically isn't doing. Now, Sean Penn's doing Actors on Actors with Julia Roberts, which will be one of the wildest episodes I think I've ever seen in my life of that.
I
But
bet he loves After the Hunt.
I
I
bet he
can't wait to
loves
hear him
it.
talk
I
about
can't wait
After
to hear
That.
him like just kind of like try to maneuver questions around. That'll be fascinating. But I do think that there is something also about just like I don't think Sean Penn's out of it, but I do think that it's starting to just be like, well, one of these two guys is going to win. It's inevitable. One of these two are going to win. And it's crazy that the 1, 2 in the category are from the same film. Like, I don't think that that's something that we've ever happened, but it just shows that they are going to award a man from that movie. It's going to be one of those two. So if you're predicting really anybody else, because like Sentimental Value had a really rough week. The only acting prize that it had was for Inga won supporting actress at National Board of Review,
Yeah.
which is a real just like it was made me really laugh because like I had to think back and I texted Sophia. I was like, "Who won this last year?" And I was like, "Oh, it was her co-star Elle Fanning for A Complete Unknown, a totally crappy performance." So it's like, God, that's such like a backhanded win
It's the
to
writing
that
of
movie.
the role,
Yeah.
though, too. She did have to say, "And I'm a plate."
Exactly,
Never
and I'm a
forget.
plate.
The
You know
the
that fence
the
acting.
Odessa
You know?
Young of 2024.
It always what always made me laugh was when the first still of Sandler and Greta Gerwig and Jay Kelly came out, and they got the phone up to the fence. And the first thing I thought of was the fence scene in A Complete Unknown for the year
Oh
before.
gosh.
Anyway,
Wow. Yeah.
but I think that I think what New York did, and then what the Gothams did, is they clearly have shown their support for Panahi, and that's okay because I mean they went head over heels and backwards at the New York Film Festival to try to have that conversation with Scorsese. So it's not surprising that that area of the world of wanted to get Jafar Panahi a win, and I mean they've also got like Rizuke Hamaguchi wins before, and that just led to nominations. I think that also with the announcement of his impending imprisonment back in Iran for a year for this film. I think that that's going to help him get the nomination. I don't think that that's going to fully secure him a win. I know that some people have started to think that way. I just think that this is awareness for that movie. And after today's CCA nominations, it really needs that awareness, for God's sakes. But I expect PTA in the film, which, you know, I think it's 5 out of the last 6 years. We've had picture and director paired up at the Oscars. The only time that it hasn't is Power of the Dog and Coda. And Sophia, cover your ears, earmuffs. If Sean Heder was nominated for director, she probably would have won that night. Like
Oh,
it's yeah.
I've said that. Same
I
thing
know.
with Amelia Jones.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
point being is that we don't do splits really anymore with this Academy. So I think that one battle after another showing its dominance as the film and the only film. Sophia had a funny anecdote about one battle at the Gothams that night where it was like, I'll let you say it about it, but it was, to me, it was extremely hilarious. And then the subsequent days after proved that theory absolutely correct. It's been the movie that Sophia and I have been on board and with this entire season. And it's just every win makes the infinity gauntlet around our arms grow stronger and stronger as the days go on.
The Chase Infinity Gauntlet.
Exactly.
I love the Chase Infinity Gauntlet.
Who's, by the way, slaying every red carpet this year, too. She is incredible. Yeah. Her and Tiana Taylor. But I think that Panahi's wins just solidify him, like I have thought, as the number 2 contender for director, and will be. But the gap between 1 and 2 is huge. It is an ocean wave in between those, in between that. But, you know, I was excited about Wagner Moura. I was so elated by Rose Byrne. I've been so nervous about this performance and getting in. I was glad she got into CCA. Glad that she got in here. It is, I gotta say, like as the years gone on and I thought about it, it might be the best female performance of the year. I've gone back and forth between Jessie Buckley and her and Jennifer Lawrence and Tessa Thompson and Renata. There's a lot of great performances, but Rose
Lots
Byrne's
of great
performance
actress performances.
has stuck with me a lot, and that movie is so focused on her to be able to for her to have this moment and have this versatility in her career. It really feels like her only chance to ever be able to maybe get to this point to get a nomination. So I'm glad that New York was able to prop her up for that. Yeah, they were a great group. The Amy Madigan of it all.
Hmm.
I pray to God this woman gets nominated. She is doing all the work to do so. It would be a wild win. I mean, between Madigan, Tiana Taylor won for, I believe, the Atlanta Film Critics Association. Mumi Musaka won at the Gothams, and Inga won um,
National
at
Board of
National Board of
Review.
Review. No real
Uh,
consensus yet in that category.
love a
Chaos.
non-consensus.
Hmm.
Love of
Love it.
chaos and love that it's all those women.
Hmm.
Like those are all great performances, and they all deserve to get their moment in the sun. And I think one of those women will be your winner. Still, you
Yeah.
know.
So I want to stay in New York because what we had on Monday, the beginning of the week, was the Gotham Awards. And that was a very interesting group of nominations and winners because one battle after another came in as the nomination leader, a record-setting 6 nominations. And as the evening went on, it was not winning. It was losing everything that it had nominations for, even breakthrough. Some really surprise winners here, even when you look at the group of 5 industry people that are voting on these. I still think it's insane that 5 people voting on a category of 10 films does not, that math will never make sense to me. It will never really properly work.
Hmm.
Even, 5 names for 5 nominees is, you can win. We watch Survivor enough. We know how the numbers games work. And when you have a tribe of 5 people, you need very, very little. You need 3 and or a weird split. But at the end of the day, One Battle still ended up winning Best Feature. But I want to throw directly to Sophia, who was there in the room for just some firsthand knowledge on what people were talking about, what they were excited about, and what they did not care about at all.
Yeah, so it was great to go to the Gothams again. This was my third year going, and I think it did feel very different actually from the past 2 years that I've been there. I got to meet some personal heroes of mine, talent in the room. That's always really cool. But I think that once the ceremony started, before everything begins and you're mingling and you're just talking to people, I think the general really energy in the room was around one battle after another. So the Warner Brothers tables were right in front of the stage, right in the middle of the room. I was far off to the side with some other journalists, but the Warner Brothers table
Rude. She
specifically,
should
I
have been in the
think
front with them.
I should have been sitting right next to Maya Rudolph and PTA. Come
Yeah,
on.
on their
But
anniversary night.
on their
Yeah,
anniversary. Anyway, I'm not going to go further into that. But I think that there was a crowd gathered around PTA and the one battle table. I think there was a lot of energy also around some of the people that were there for Sinners. Notably, though, quite a few people weren't there, whereas one battle, I think, had a big presence where all the nominees for that film were present. And even though Chase Infinity didn't win Breakthrough, she went up on stage with Tiana Taylor and Regina Hall. They actually opened the ceremony. It was very funny. It was incredibly chaotic and great. Got a lot of laughs in the room.
I
And
think about Tayana Taylor saying Jafar Panahi's name all the time, like in the middle of the night, in sleep. It's in my head.
It was an amazing moment, really.
It's an
The way she
experience,
said
that's for
Jafar
sure.
Panahi. Yeah. But I think that was, even though one battle, was it a couple of years ago? Yeah, really recently they lifted the budget restrictions
It
to
was
be able to
2023, 2 years
include,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah.
2 years ago, larger budget films in the mix. And I think this was the year actually that we kind of felt a little bit of that tension when it came to the winners. Because there are juries that determine who wins, I think they can really want to reward people who might not get recognition anywhere else this season. I think that is really what we saw in a few categories, which I actually think it's a good moment, really theoretically, for some of these people to, win awards like for outstanding lead performance. Chopay Derisu from My Father's Shadow, but he wasn't there in the room, and neither was the winner of Breakthrough Performer, Abu Sangare for Soliman's Story. Wunmi Masaku, who won for Sinners, also was not there. So then we get into
Yeah, this
this
is
really
giving HCA
weird
vibes.
moment where the energy did feel kind of drained from the room. Panahi, every time he went up, I thought it was, an exciting moment. He went up 3 times for international feature, screenplay, and director. But even then, at that point, it just creates a strange vibe in the room. I think when you have one person giving 3 speeches, even though it is Jafar Panahi, which is very cool. And then you have no one going up there really for the acting categories. So by the time we get to the end of the ceremony, really, and one battle hadn't won anything, I was sitting with Chris Rosen, our friend at the Ankler, and we just were kind of like, what is going to happen? This has been such a strange, different ceremony just based on who's there, what people are talking about. But and then I'll end my very long monologue about this, and you can ask me other questions if you want to. But I noticed who was on the feature film jury. And we play a
Mm-hmm.
lot of guessing games with who's on juries and who they might vote for. And at the beginning of the night, I did see Alec Baldwin, who was on the jury, talking to PTA enthusiastically about one battle after another. And I also noticed that Janet Yang, Academy president, was on that jury and one
Yep.
battle won. So
Yep.
I think that it says something, even though it's a small jury. But
Take
when I
that,
looked at
Eric.
those names,
Mm-hmm. You
when I looked at those names, I actually thought this too. When I went into the ceremony, I was like, one battle is not going to win all these awards. That's people actually will get upset about that if that happens, I think, because this isn't necessarily a place to celebrate that film in every single category. That can happen later down the line. But if it was going to win anywhere, I thought breakthrough performer and picture.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. There's another name that was on that jury for best feature that I wanted to highlight, and that
mhm.
was somebody who just won best picture at the Oscars last year, and that's Alex Coco for Anora. So it was
Yep.
these little lineups of 5 people are really quite fascinating.
And I
It's
wanted to highlight another person that was on the nominations or the jury there for winning Best Picture, and that's Eric's best friend Alec Baldwin. So
well,
all you
Sophia
never know
already
who's going to be on there.
mentioned already
I
already
did mention him,
mentioned Alec
yes.
Yeah.
Baldwin.
Who was who
Yes,
was who?
who is a supporter of Paul Dano.
I was going to
So
say he's
Who,
had a
real
week.
story, I thought I saw him from afar and I thought he was Christopher Nolan and I got excited and then I got closer and was like, oh, never mind.
I think you need to
a
apologize now
full-on
to Christopher
Monet
Nolan. My
sounds
Full on
God,
like.
be
Monet.
like, wow, the Odyssey really made him look rough.
Mhm.
Wow.
What an endeavor we're
Yes.
going on next year.
Yeah.
Does he have
Yeah.
blonde hair now? Because doesn't Nolan have like blonde hair?
No, it's like a gray, but it was from profile and from
Profile.
far away. And I think my mind just wanted Nolan maybe to be talking to PTA and I
Oh, he'll
got
oh
yeah, a little
he'll be
confused. I hadn't
he'll be
even had a drink
talking
yet.
he'll be talking to PTA. All right, you don't have to
Oh
worry
my
about
God.
Yeah.
that. PTA's there
All
in a
right.
couple of
So
minutes.
I'm gonna close this out and kind of get your first week vibes, because this is Friday, December 5th. we are at the end of the first week of this December awards season. We will have Golden Globe nominations on Monday morning, which will add yet another piece to that. We will have Los Angeles film critics this weekend as well.
Yeah.
And another really exciting factor. And I always love seeing where LA decides to push against New York, and when they decide to basically embrace and kind of do the same thing. So just give me your guys' vibes of what this first week has been like. Are you excited for the season, or does it feel inevitable, or both?
I mean, if it's inevitable in the way that I think so, I'm excited for that because One Battle After Another is my favorite film of the year, and I think it's time for Paul Thomas Anderson to collect the trophies he's deserved for a really long time now. So that's exciting. I'm hoping for, I think, a more stress-free coronation type season and not one that surprises. And I think just based on just covering award seasons for the past couple of years, I think back to a season like The Power of the Dog and Coda, where The Power of the Dog was also my favorite film of that year and my dreams went to die. But there were signs of that. There were early signs of that coming that I just did not want to pay attention to. And I don't feel that here in the same way. I feel a little bit calmer and I think more locked in. I think, especially because from what we've heard personally and just in what we've read, the industry really loves this movie and wants to celebrate him. And so I think inevitability can be a good and exciting thing when what is inevitable is deserving of that recognition and prize. And then I think the season, though, can still be up in the air in some places, which could be cool to discuss too. Like this right now, what we're looking at with supporting actress. You know, how will the rest of the critics groups weigh in? Is Weapons going to get a screenplay nomination, and can Amy Madigan win just like Ruth Gordon, who came before her? You know, there are certain things I think that are still up in the air that are a little less certain, but I right now am embracing One Battle After Another and will continue to. I have for this long. I feel like we've we've heard from like so many people prior to this movie's release that it was not going to do anything and that other people were coming for best director, and I'm not backing off now. So I feel good.
And Ryan, what are your thoughts of this first week of award season?
So I'm going to take you back many years ago when the Lakers were playing the Orlando Magic in the NBA
Oh my
Finals.
God, here we go.
And it was game 2, and Kobe Bryant was in the back getting interviewed, and an interview asked him like, are you satisfied with the win tonight? And he goes, no, job's not finished. Is the job finished? And that job was, of course, winning the NBA championship. And so what do I think about this week? Job's not finished. I mean, he hasn't won the Oscars yet, and that's the goal. So job's not finished. It's a nice week. Pat yourselves on the back, but keep the tuxedo looking nice, keep the suits looking nice, and keep your hands free because there's other things to be given out. There's tons of critics groups, and they're going to all bend the knee to Paul Thomas Anderson this year. I mean, every single director that I've interviewed, every single director, every single person, honestly, that I've interviewed and talked to before, during, and after those interviews, they have talked about how much they love this movie. You got Park Chan-wook, Joachim Trier, Ethan Hawke, Richard Linklater, all on various other interviews and podcasts talking about this movie. It is the movie that everybody is talking about. I mean, Sophia, to your point, like that whole room was sitting there like, when is this movie going to win something? And it did, and it felt like, oh, cool, we can have a good night. And I will say this, one thing that you didn't mention was his speech was
Yes.
great. It was a wonderful speech. One, to see him up on a stage It was
Yeah.
what almost brought tears to my eyes because it's like, oh my God, I actually can see him on a stage. Him
It
bringing up Maya
was
Rudolph.
Yeah, it was very moving in the room just because, it's not something I've ever really
Scene?
seen
Yeah.
before, like let alone in person, right? But we're just so used to him losing.
Yeah.
So to see that movie lose so many awards before too, I was like, "Oh my gosh, are we headed for another round of this? I can't take it anymore." But then just seeing him up there and seeing how excited I think he was and just
Yeah.
to honor Maya, I think was just it was very beautiful and it made the entire night really worth it for me.
And those tables are so with his cast and Tiana and Regina and Chase and everybody. Leo wasn't there, but the that crew and that cast are doing wonders for him. And they were all in London. Him and Leo were in London last week. They've been campaigning their ass off. It will pay off. They will win these Oscars. So that's not necessarily where I'm looking at. I'm looking at, yeah, what's going to happen in supporting actress? Where are our consensus going to be on our screenplays? Is like, because we haven't seen really adapted screenplay battles yet. So I'm really curious, is that where Hamnet can make up ground? That's that where it gets a win? Or does one battle sweep in there? Is that a place, what are the other three nominees that we've been talking about? Original screenplay feels like it's a three dog race between Sinners and Sentimental Value, and maybe this is where they award Panahi something as well there too. Supporting actress is crazy. Does Benicio keep going on his run, or does somebody else? Does Penn or Stellan win Los Angeles? Though I kind of feel Benicio is going to win Los Angeles too. It kind of feels like that.
I think
And
so.
then I have to say something, and I know this is going to sound blasphemous, and it's just 1 week. But because Hamnet has had a rough couple of days, I wonder how locked really that Jesse Buckley win is. And is there a challenger that emerges from these critics groups that could make things more interesting? I'm not saying beat her because I still have her winning. And I still think that that is the best place to reward that movie. And she's doing tons of Q&As, and the movie's about to come out wide very soon.
It
If
is
not this
wide
week,
today
or it is wide today. But it
in
would
the
be
US.
I would be very, very curious to see if somebody emerges. Is it a Rose Byrne? Does Renata come back around through Los Angeles, through the Globes? So it'll be very curious there. And I think Leo and Wagner Mora are really the 1-2. I think Timmy will be around in that third spot. And so who are 4 and 5? Is it Joel Edgerton? Is it Clooney? Is it Michael B. Jordan, who seems to be climbing up the list? Is it Ethan Hawke? So there's a lot of fascinating things still left to come. But yeah, again, job's not finished, but we'll get there. And we've got a long time to get there. And we'll all get on that last bus together. And we'll ride all the way to the Oscar glory.
And with
We'll sign our
that,
lease with the rental family.
There you go.
my goodness. Wow.
Right, Eric? How are you feeling after this week? How are you? Yeah, you asked us. How are you feeling
Yeah.
about those
I feel
early
great.
August picks?
I'm excited. This has been a busy first week. I mean, you know
Yeah.
how December is. December is absolutely a madhouse.
Yeah, and it's going to be that again
we
next
have
week.
Michigan and Seattle nominations later today. We have Washington tomorrow. We have Toronto and LA and Washington
Sunday.
winners all on Sunday. Golden Globes on Monday morning. It's one award after another, over and over and over again, all the way through. It's really going, I mean, yeah, all the way to Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Day gets skipped, and then we're right back at it the day
26th.
after. So
Well, and then we have a couple of days, and then
doesn't
on
really
literally the 4th, you don't even get to celebrate the New Year's too much because
Nope.
Critics' Choice is on the 4th. The
And
11th is Golden
Palm
Globes.
Springs starts on the 2nd. The Palm Springs Awards is the 3rd, and then Critics' Choice is the next day.
I think we're all going to need.
It's a lot.
I think we're all going to need like electrolyte Bacchus, and
I'm
maybe
definitely
free
going
trips
to
the
go to
emergency
that
room.
place next to the Sweet Green on Sunset and
Oh, yeah.
get my IV.
Get your
Yeah,
IV.
Absolutely,
I think you got
absolutely
to.
doing it.
You got to.
Yes. All right. With that, we are going to close, and Ryan, please tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, if you want to keep hate tweeting at me about Wicked, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Blue Sky at Ryan McQuade 77. That's been a fun last couple of weeks. Can't wait for that to continue throughout the season. Director Watch, the episode of White Material will be out probably later today, if not tomorrow. And we'll have an episode on Let the Sunshine In next week. And yeah, just all the other fun stuff is here. We'll have a 2010 retrospective on Monday releasing for the main show. So a lot of fun stuff coming from the website. And then yeah, everything from these guys, interviews. We've got an interview with Ryan Johnson coming up next week for that Knives Out movie. What is it? Wake Up Dead Man. That's what it's called. God, I can't remember titles anymore. And Sophia's got some stuff coming. Eric's got stuff coming. It's a great time to be on the site right now. So,
Sophia, what about you?
Yeah, you can find me tweeting about One Battle After Another, which also just topped the Sight and Sound list for the year
mhm.
at Sophia_Sim. Everywhere else, Blue Sky, Letterboxd at Sophia Sim. You can find my work at AwardsWatch. I just reviewed Marty Supreme, so check that out. And then I'll have quite a few interviews coming next week. Interviewed Lucas Chazal for Hamnet, Inga Ibsdottir Lilius, that's coming, Jennifer Venditti, who I mentioned. So lots of good stuff coming very soon. Long season.
Yes, very much. Yeah, I do as well. I've got the Jupe brothers coming, Noah Baumbach, and we're definitely going to have some Marty Supreme interview content coming too. It's really just it's never going to end. It really it's nonstop. Yeah, so please, visit awardswatch.com every day, multiple times a day. Just keep clicking, click away everywhere that you can. And sign up for the newsletter. That should be coming out. It should be out already if you're listening to this because it's going to be on there, but we'll see how it goes. But the season has really just begun. So strap in with us. And thank you everyone for listening.